What up, everybody? It's the Alex Leak and Friends NFL Podcast, Week 12. I got David Stoyo in Canada,
What's going on, everybody?
and I got Gavin Heslop in Oregon.
Hello, hello.
Ready to talk another week of football. It was a good week. It started out Thanksgiving morning, or Thanksgiving at noon. Vikings Lions at Ford Field. The Vikings got the win, their seventh straight. It was a big step for the Vikings toward clinching the division. Um, if the Lions had won, they would have swept the matchup and been only a game back. So big game for the Vikings. Case Keenum throws for 282 and two touchdowns, including one rushing. Um, Xavier Rhodes had the game-clinching interception. Gavin, what do you think of this game?
This is the typical Lions fashion. We dug too deep a hole to get ourselves out of. I feel like we were the better team in the second half, but we had allowed too much, particularly in that first quarter, to be able to come back from. I can't even remember the play and what the drive was, but I know there's one touchdown we gave them because we gave them a third down conversion on what would have been a 4-and-out, and they ended up scoring a touchdown off of it, which typical Thanksgiving Day.
Yeah. Yeah, it sucks. There was a few, like Case Keenum's touchdown pass to Kyle Rudolph came when the Lions only had 10 defenders on the field. So that kind of hurts. Darius Slay had a potential game-tying blocked field goal, but he was offsides at the end. Stafford had a pretty good game, but struggled with accuracy late after the ankle injury. Marvin Jones Jr. had a big game. Everson Griffin had two more sacks, ties a career high with 12 on the season. Stoyo, what'd you think?
It wouldn't be Thanksgiving if the Lions wouldn't lose, so it's kind of expected. But
Yeah.
yeah, as Gavin mentioned, the Lions need to play 60 minutes of football and just not the last two quarters.
Yeah.
If they can pull a full game together, then it would be fine. But you cannot take whole quarters off and win anything.
Yeah.
But yeah, also they lacked rushing as usual. They rushed for like 50 yards again. And as long as they don't develop a running game, I don't know how well they're going to do against a balanced team that Minnesota is. And that defense, honestly, is legitimate.
Yeah,
That
it
is a
is.
Super Bowl winning defense for sure.
Yeah.
So, how about Case Keenum holding Bridgewater down
Yeah.
and keeping his starting job? Would you play him till the rest of the season?
Absolutely. I would ride him through into the playoffs. As long as he keeps this up, they're on pace for a first round bye. As long as they keep that up, and I would ride with Case Keenum the whole way. What do you think, Gavin? Do you think that the Lions need to? Do you think it's a running back problem, an offensive line problem, a system problem? Do you think you guys need to draft a running back? What do you think is going on in Detroit?
I know that this year we had some offensive line injuries, and one of the biggest and most important things for an offensive line is chemistry. And going into the season, I was really looking forward to having a solid offensive line that had one good year together. And going into a second one, I think we had a good chance of being able to improve on top of that. But then we lost our left tackle going into the season. I think he was out for the first 8 or 9 games.
Yeah.
So that was huge. And the running backs we have that are starting caliber are Theo Riddick and Abdullah. Neither one of them are really known for being between the tackles kind of guys. They're more I feel like they're very similar, and so they're good out of the backfield, even though Riddick hasn't been utilized that way this year. But I don't mind that because I think Marvin Jones is starting to come out, and Tate's been just building his rapport with Stafford, adding Galladay. Ebron still drops every other pass thrown to him, so
Yeah.
that guy can get out of here. But I don't know exactly. I don't know what the issue is, but we can't seem to get a running game together, and we've just been relying on Stafford's arm, which I think if we can get some more balance, like Stoyo was saying, that would definitely help, particularly against a team like Minnesota that has a really stout defense. That we need to be able to throw some different looks at them, not just let them assume that Stafford's going to just try and chuck it.
Yeah, I agree. In order to be a good team in this league, you have to have balance. Speaking of a team that doesn't have balance anymore, the Cowboys, with Zeke Elliott suspended, played the Chargers in the second matchup on Thanksgiving and got beat up pretty badly, 28-6. Phillip Rivers had a big game with 434 and 3 touchdowns. Keenan Allen stepped up with 11 catches, 172 yards, and a touchdown. The Cowboys have lost 3 straight by 20 plus for the first time since 2004. Stoyo, what do you see out of the Cowboys, and is it anything that can be corrected?
I do not like their coach.
Yeah.
I do not like their GM. Jerry Jones is just too involved in the team. They lost their star running back. They're playing with a second-year QB. Their star wide receiver is underperforming. It's just a shit show in Dallas.
It is.
I don't know what they can do this season. I think they're probably going to miss the playoffs. They're 5-6. At some point, you need to question Jason Garrett.
Yeah.
I think you should fire him and get a better coach, but I think Jerry Jones enjoys that he's just a yes man and it's not going to give him a lot of problems.
Yeah, I think I agree with you that that's what needs to be done. I agree. I don't think it'll happen. I think that Jerry will just point to the suspension and blame the season on that and say that if you have Zeke on the field, this is a playoff team. So we'll see what they do. Gavin, what do you think? The Chargers have kind of sprung up here. They're up to 5-6, playing some pretty good football. Phillip Rivers is throwing really well. Do you think that the Chargers can possibly catch the other teams in their division?
They're 5-6 right now, and the only people ahead of them are the Chiefs at 6-5. So they're one game away from catching them and taking the lead in that division, which would give them the playoff spot. Obviously, they're actually really in the hunt for the wild card too, because the Ravens and Jaguars are there at 6-5 and 7-4 respectively. So they have a chance to make the playoffs yet this year, especially if they can start heating up. Rivers and Allen seem to have been getting more on the same page lately, which is your number one receiving weapon and your best offensive weapon in Rivers. Definitely good to getting them on the same page. They thumped Dallas. I know that Dallas was missing some starters on defense, which allowed them for Phillip Rivers to throw for 82% completion percentage, which is insane.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I think.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think they got a chance.
Yeah. I could see it.
What's surprising about the Cowboys is that they still struggle to run the ball without. I know that they're missing Ezekiel Elliott, but they're facing the worst rush defense on the year.
Wow.
Chargers are allowing 133 yards on the ground, but they didn't even eclipse 100 yards. So I think their offensive line from last year that was touted so highly isn't what it was, and that's kind of gone under the radar amongst this. And Prescott and the suspension of Zeke Elliott has been labeled as a struggle. So I think it shows just how great of an athlete Zeke is, and how much Prescott really leans on him and his ability to bring the defense a little closer to open things up in the passing game.
Yeah, I feel like I've heard offensive linemen say that they prefer to run block besides pass blocking, because run blocking kind of gets them into the game and gets their momentum going. And when you're struggling to run the ball and you're forced to pass the ball more, especially in the second half, it puts a lot of pressure on your linemen. And I still think that's a pretty good line in Dallas, but they're just, maybe it's the running backs aren't getting it done or whatever, but you see more of an emphasis on Prescott to make these plays, and he's struggling without the balanced game. In this game, Jason Witten passes Lions wide receiver Herman Moore for most yards all time on Thanksgiving, 80 catches for 853 yards. Jason Witten also says, quote, "I'm not leaving for the Cowboys for the Tennessee head coaching job." So I guess he was rumored in that. So good to know.
You, Jason.
Yeah. The final game on Thanksgiving, the Redskins take care of the Giants 20-10. Kirk Cousins throws for 242 and 2 touchdowns. Jamison Crowder goes off for 141 yards and a touchdown. Nice to see the 7-finger Jason Pierre-Paul still out there getting it. He had 2 Cousins sacks. Stoyo, what do you think is the Redskins and Cousins' future? I did some research, and the Redskins can actually franchise tag him one more year, but that would be $24 million. Stoyo, would you franchise tag him, give him a long-term contract, or move on?
I have no idea what the Washington Redskins are going to do. You never know with Snyder. He's just all over the place, so I'm not going to guess what goes on in his mind. It could go either way. Personally, I would try to re-sign him to a longer deal, just not a third franchise tag.
Yeah.
But like I said previously, I think he's a good QB, but I wouldn't really want to max him. But nowadays, it seems like every good QB that is in the contract year receives this massive, massive deal. The 49ers have been thinking of franchising Garoppolo. So if they're willing to franchise tag him, since he's basically unproven, maybe you could consider tagging Cousins again.
Yeah.
But I don't know, it's a lot of money.
It is.
It's hard when you're just playing on the 1-year deal as a QB. How can you have your teammate trust you and be like, okay, let's get to work, let's build something, when you're not even in the team's future?
Yeah, and that's got to be weighing on them. That's got to be weighing on the team. I mean, you see, once again, they're right around 500. Not a great team, not a bad team, just kind of floating there. So we'll see what they have going on. Gavin, the news broke today that the Giants are going to bench Eli Manning, and they're starting Geno Smith for next week's game. What do you think of the Eli Manning drama and in New York? And do you think that that he's played his last football for the Giants?
I don't think he's played his last. I think we're going to see something pretty similar to what happened in Buffalo.
Yeah.
Unless Geno Smith has taken 18 steps forward since the last time I saw him on the field, there's going to be such an outcry in New York for them to bring Eli back. I mean, he's won them 2 Super Bowls on the back of a defense, yes, but he was the starting quarterback for those 2 Super Bowls, and for him to get benched, that's not going to be taken lightly. It's all but certain at this point that he's gone, but I don't think that he's going to be sitting the rest of the year. He did saw his the interview after practice after he'd found out he was going to be benched, and I will say he handled it with a 100% class. Much respect to Eli for how he phrased his answer, however he was feeling on the inside, and he was a true professional about it. So mad respect there.
Yeah.
To get benched for Geno Smith after winning 2 Super Bowls for that team, I would not have been so kind. If I were in his shoes.
Eli once again handling it with all class, and the people in the locker room, the players and personnel at the Giants facility didn't handle it with as much class. Needless to say, they were not happy. There was Twitter lit up when the news broke. In particular, Damon Snacks Harrison had a lot to say on it and was not happy and thought that Eli was getting the raw end of the deal. And pretty much points to the coaching and saying that there's a lot of dysfunction in that locker room and that needs to be cleaned up. Tough place to be right now for the Giants. And so we'll look forward to Geno Smith starting on Sunday. On this last Sunday, Falcons light up the Bucks 34-20 for their third straight win. Matt Ryan has a big game, 317 yards, a touchdown. Julio Jones goes off for 12 catches, 253 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Julio now has 3 games in his career of more than 250 yards. Nobody else in NFL history has more than one. Atlanta wide receiver Mohamed Sanu threw a touchdown pass to Julio in this game, giving him in his career 6 for 6 for 228 yards and 3 touchdowns. Stoyo, do you think the Browns should give Mohamed Sanu a call?
He's probably better than Kaiser.
Yeah. What do you think of Atlanta? They seem to be hitting their stride right now, 3 straight. Do you think they're over the Super Bowl hangover? Can they possibly make a run for the division?
That division is open. I mean, it's a difficult division, but you have to get hot at the right time. And with that offense, with Julio Jones, Matty Ice, and those 2 running backs, anything is possible. You just need to get yourself into playoffs, and you go from there.
Yep.
They made it amazing last year, and they were up 28-3 not too long ago in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So can't they make it back? I'm sure I'm gonna be cheering for them. I love that offense. 252 yards is ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, he looked like a man playing against high school people out there. It was just another clutch performance by Julio Jones.
Yeah, I mean, we were kind of making fun of him a little bit earlier, and I heard other people doing it. But if the Falcons get hot at the right time, make a push, this could be one of Sarkisian's better performances. Gavin, I saw a quote, or I saw a post on Twitter from Fox Sports analyst Shannon Sharp saying that he would take Jerry Rice, Terrell Owens, and Randy Moss and throw in Julio Jones as well. He would take those guys over Calvin Johnson. What do you think about that?
Well, the first 3 I can certainly understand. Legends for sure. As far as Julio goes, I mean, he's been really productive on the field. It's arguable that he's been more productive than Calvin. I don't have the stats in front of me, so I can't say for sure what his pace is versus Calvin's. But he's an incredibly talented wide receiver. He's tall, he's fast, he's a great route runner. I would love to have him be the number 1 on my team right now. That's for sure. I don't know if I could take Megatron after him, but I probably am a little biased as well.
No, I mean, I would agree with you that you could take any 4 of those guys, any 5 of those receivers, and you wouldn't be making a mistake with either one.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, again, I'm probably a little biased, but I think that Calvin also started out with a rookie quarterback and had to grow, have him grow behind him. Where Julio came into a situation where across the field was Roddy White from him, and he had Matt Ryan, who had already been the starter for a number of years at that point. But as far as just one-on-one next to each other, they're both extremely talented. But I'd take Megatron in that situation if I had, I guess whoever my team was. I think I'd take him. I mean, both had injuries, so I think that's kind of a wash. But yeah, I would take Calvin personally. Shannon Sharp just likes to stir the pot.
Yeah, I know he does. either way, I wouldn't want to see any of those guys lining up on the other side of the field against my team. So um, that's a good argument on that. The Bengals stifle the Browns. The Browns fall to 0-11, losing 30-16 to Cincinnati. The Bengals enter the game with the worst rushing offense in the NFL. But Joe Mixon goes for 114 and a touchdown. The Browns head coach Hugh Jackson runs his Cleveland coaching record to 1-26. um, Gavin, neither team having a great season. The Bengals have been playing a little better lately. At 5-6, they're not particularly far away from the wild card. Do you think that they could possibly get hot?
They could get hot, but their schedule is going to be pretty trying. They face the Steelers this week. 2 weeks later, the Vikings, the Lions, and then the Ravens for their final week.
Nice.
So they've got a pretty tough matchup coming up just overall over the next 5 weeks. Right now, they are a game out of the wild card spot, but the Ravens are one of those spots. So, given their schedule, I don't see them coming out of there unless, of course, they catch fire. They do play the Steelers and the Lions at home, so that's definitely an advantage on their part.
Yeah, I'm sure the Bengals sitting at 5-6 are wishing they could play the Browns every week.
It's good to see Mixon
Yeah.
finally look like a starting running back. The Browns do have the number 8 rushing defense,
Nice.
so to see him break out against a pretty stout rushing defense is finally, the Bengals organization has to be happy that he's finally done something productive.
Yeah, it's about time. A little late in the year, but at least he's starting to get it going. Stoyo, the Titans find a way to beat the Colts 20-16. It's the Titans' first win in Indy in their last 10 attempts. The first time they've swept the Colts since 2002. Colts have lost 3 straight and 5 of the last 6. The Titans got to Jacoby Brissett 8 times, 8 sacks. It's a big win for the Titans in the division. They're now tied for the lead. Do you still have the Jaguars coming out of that division, or do you think Tennessee can get it going?
I still have the Jags. I'm more buying into their defense.
Mm-hmm.
And when you beat the Andrew Luckless Colts, it's not too hard. I mean, they're built like the Green Bay Packers. They were relying heavily on their starting QB, their franchise QB.
Yep.
So once he's not playing, it's very easy to beat them, especially when they had to trade for their starting QB at the moment.
It looks like the Colts are probably going to fire Chuck Pagano. Do you agree with this move? Would you do it? Do you blame Coach Pagano?
It's very hard to win when you lose your starting QB. Not a lot of coach can pull that off. And I think Pagano is a decent coach. I would probably take him in Chicago, to be honest.
Well, maybe what the Colts should do is have Jim Irsay come down and coach some games. What do you think, Gavin?
Yeah, he sure talks like he knows what he's doing. But I think the Colts regret when Bruce Arians left. I think they wish they could have kept him and sent Pagano to Arizona instead. Arians definitely turned out to be the better coach of the two. Yeah, it's really hard to fault any coach that doesn't have a legitimate starting quarterback on their team, which is a wonder why the Browns keep firing people.
Yeah.
Because if you don't give them someone to work with, but anyways, we can rip on the Browns pretty much anytime.
Yeah, it's true.
I don't know how they could get rid of him because of this season in particular. Winning any games, frankly, is a step forward. And it's not like they gave away anything for Brissett. They gave away Dorsett, the receiver they weren't even using, even when Luck was there. So they gave up nothing for a better starting quarterback.
Yeah. At least they made a move, but yeah, the season was pretty much shot the minute that Luck wasn't going to be back. Another good game. The Bills take on the Chiefs in Arrowhead. They make the move back to Tyrod Taylor, and what do you know? They beat the Chiefs 16-10. Tyrod Taylor played well enough to win. He didn't have great stats, but decent completion percentage, decent running. Able to put up 16 points. Bills rookie Tre'Davious White gets the game clinching interception. At 6-5, the Bills might be still alive, battling for a wild card. Um, Gavin, what would you say is wrong with Kansas City?
I don't know if there's anything wrong with them, but it's that Alex Smith has come back down to earth.
Yeah.
He started out playing, like the best quarterback in the league, and has come back down to really what everyone expected of him. He's thrown 4 interceptions over his last 3 games. We're going into after the first 8, he had thrown none, so that certainly plays a part of it. All of those games are close too, or relatively close at least. But yeah, I think that's the big thing, is that they have a quarterback that's playing like what everyone would expect him to have throughout the year.
Would you make the switch to Pat Mahomes?
I would not. No, I can't imagine that Mahomes is ready at this point.
Mm-hmm.
I think going into when they drafted him, they knew he was going to be a project. That was definitely the reports that were given on him going into the draft. So unless Andy Reid's been able to work some voodoo and change him, and maybe that's where all of Alex Smith's magic left and went to. But I would definitely sit Mahomes this year. I think that Alex Smith is a good starting quarterback. And I think that switching to a rookie would be a huge mistake at this point.
Yeah, I agree. I wouldn't make the switch yet. I think part of the problem, earlier in the year, Kareem Hunt was just running like a madman. And, he was Rookie of the Year candidate. He was
absolutely
killing it, and I believe that his numbers have kind of dropped off of late. The teams have kind of figured him out a little bit. What do you think, Stoyo? What do you think's going on in Kansas City?
As Gavin mentioned, Alex Smith came down to earth, and Hunt hasn't been running the greatest. But the good news for the Chiefs is their schedule for the rest of the year looks pretty favorable. They're playing the Jets this week, and following that, they're playing the Raiders at home. A huge game on Week 15 against the Charger at home again, which will probably decide their division. And then they're playing Miami. And Week 17, they're closing the season at Denver. So all of those games are very winnable. So if they turn it back on or manage to win most of these, they should be headed back to the playoffs. But I wouldn't bench Alex Smith as in right now. You have to have a rookie that's waiting. But as Gavin also said, we don't think he's ready.
Yeah, and that would be my advice to the Chiefs, is not to panic. You're right there. If you would tell the Chiefs at the beginning of the year that they would have a home game, Week 15, against the Chargers to determine the division, I think they would take it. Anytime you're at Arrowhead, you got to feel confident. They've got a couple weeks to figure this out and get back on the winning side, and I think that they will do it. I trust Andy Reid. He's been there before, and hopefully they can take a step forward this year. The Patriots continue their dominance, easily handling the Dolphins 35-17 in Foxborough. Tom Brady throws 4 touchdowns for 227, 2 of them to Gronk, who had 5 catches for 82 yards. Matt Moore struggled, throwing 2 picks and was sacked 7 times. Gavin, do you think that the Patriots are beatable? Do you think that the Patriots have a decent shot at getting back to the Super Bowl? Gavin?
Gavin's not. Gavin's on hold right now.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, I can take over this question pretty much. Yeah, the Patriots just do what they're known to be doing. quietly to amass one of the best records in the NFC. They won 7 games in a row. It's just another day at the office.
Yeah.
They just dominated their division every year. Every year. The last time they missed the playoffs, they went 11-5.
And Matt Castle was their starting quarterback.
And
Yeah.
So somehow it's just pure domination. I haven't seen anything like it in all 4 major sports. I tip my hat to the Patriots, to Belichick and Brady. I wasn't a fan of them. I used to hate them. But now I've grown to respect them. It is amazing what they have been doing for the past decade and a half.
Yeah. Yeah, they're a great team. They know how to use mismatches against teams. They have, anytime you have probably the greatest quarterback of all time, and he's been healthy for year after year after year, and they protect him and they don't overuse him, and that's just a very well-run organization. The Panthers play the Jets and get a comeback win, 35-27. That's their 4th straight win. Carolina gets a defensive touchdown from Luke Kuechly on a fumble return for a touchdown, and they get a special teams touchdown from Kalen Clay on a punt return for a touchdown. Panthers are 8-3. Gavin, what do you think of the Panthers going forward?
It's pretty crazy, I think, that they're able to continue to move forward after trading away what most people consider to be their best receiver at the time, and still able to put up the offense they have. Christian McCaffrey's he's been more useful in the running game than he had been. Cam Newton and through most of this game, he only had passed to 3 different targets: Funchess, McCaffrey, and Greg Olsen, who only had 1 catch. But even despite Newton's ineffectiveness through the air in this game, and even on the ground, despite the touchdown, he only had 28 yards on 9 attempts, which usually for him, 9 attempts, he's going to be looking at 60, 70 yards at least. It's pretty impressive that they've been able to turn their season around kind of after the first few weeks. And that division is the most compelling division. We talked about the Falcons earlier, I believe, and they're all neck and neck with 8-3 and 7-4, or 8-3 and 9-2. Nope, sorry.
I think they're 8-3, 8-3, and 7-4, something like that.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Saints being the top 8-3 out of there, but yeah, it's going to be a really interesting for sure. The Panthers and Saints this week. That's going to be a huge game.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how Cam Newton looks in those games. Those are going to be a lot on the line, and he can't have a game like this and expect to come out with a win against the Saints or the Falcons. So that'll be interesting to see. Stoyo, who do you think comes out of that division? Who would you take right now to win it?
I would probably say the Falcons.
Really?
Yeah, it's a long shot, but the Panthers have their struggles offensively, even though they just got one of my favorite tight ends, Greg Olsen, back.
Yeah.
Which is a good thing. But, yeah, I want the Falcons to take it down. I'm kind of hoping the Saints make it to the wild card spot because it'd be nice to see Drew Brees win another one. Because this could be his last run as he's 38 years old. I just am not that big of a believer in the Panthers anymore, even though I like them.
Yeah.
I'm going to cheer for them, but I think it would be a better story if somehow the Falcons would make it back to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, that'd be cool. I'm rooting for the Panthers to come out of this division. I think that they're a better playoff team that would put up a fight against a team like the Eagles and those teams. What do you think, Gavin? Who do you got in that division?
I'm gonna take New Orleans to come out of that division. We'll talk about their game coming up. But all three of those teams, are 4-1 out of their last 5 games. New Orleans' winning streak came to an end this week, but they were also missing their 2 top cornerbacks, which played a huge part in that. Sorry, we're jumping ahead. We'll get to that later. But I think they'll come out. I think they're a more balanced team. They have the better quarterback out of those 3 teams, and their defense has been playing well. So I'm gonna say New Orleans stays on top, but it might be all 3 of those teams end up in the playoffs, and you could see New Orleans facing up against the Panthers or the Falcons in the first week in the wild card game.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. I'd like to see that. All right, Stoyo, let's defend our team. The 3-8 Bears get demolished by the Eagles, 31-3. That's the Eagles' 9th straight win. Carson Wentz throws for 227 and 3 touchdowns. Trubisky struggled, throwing for 147 and 2 picks. LeGarrette Blount had a good game. Zach Ertz had a good game against us. The Eagles are playing great, looking for the number 1 seed and home field advantage. But what's wrong with the Bears, Stoyo?
Everything.
Yeah.
Every fucking thing. I don't even know where to begin. I apologize that a few weeks ago I even brought the chance that we could make the playoffs. We couldn't. I just couldn't see past my own biasm. But, yeah, we're terrible. Trubisky had the worst QBR since QBR has been released by NFL, by ESPN. The worst. A 0.3. Are you kidding me? The Bears could not pick up a first down till the third quarter. I don't care how good the Eagles are, you should be able to pick a first down in the first half.
Yeah.
It's just, we're a terrible team. I don't know how John Fox is still coaching us. I have a hard time watching us. I turned the game off in the fourth quarter because it was just too much. Yep. I couldn't handle it. And how nice was it to see Alshon Jeffrey make some tough catches and a QB reception and made our corners look like fools.
Yeah. I mean, great product that we're putting out there, Chicago. I want to clean house. I want to rebuild. I want to start over. Get John Fox out of there. Get the coaching staff out of there. Let's get Ted Phillips out of there. Let's get Ryan Pace out of there. Let's just clean house. Let's start over. Management is obviously doesn't know what it's doing. You can't even, the guy that we bring in as to help with our draft pick. We know that, hey, this is a big draft. Let's get a quarterback. The guy that we have help consult on all that stuff is the same guy that blew the Elway draft. The same guy that drafted Elway of the Baltimore Colts, even though he specifically said he would never play for the Colts. That guy got fired after the draft. I know he's been around a long time, but the Bears are just not making smart decisions. And I'm cool with let's build around Trubisky and Howard and Leonard Floyd. And I don't really care about anybody else. Let's just rebuild. Let's get some young guys in here. If you can't beat the Packers with Brett Hundley, who are you going to beat? I'm just not happy with the product. Not happy watching Bears football of late. Gavin, what do you think of the Eagles, though? A rather easy win for them. Sky's the limit for that team right now.
Yeah, they have come on really strong, and they're a really well-balanced team as well. We talked about that with the Vikings, but I think the Eagles are just as balanced, if not a little bit more. They definitely have a better quarterback behind center. Their defense might not be as good, but I think their offensive weapons are a little bit stronger than what the Vikings have right now, especially with they're missing their starting running back, and with the Eagles picking up Jay Ajayi to complement LeGarrette Blount.
Yeah.
So I think they're definitely they'll be sitting out the first week of the playoffs, getting some rest.
Yeah, they look like the most complete team in football, to be honest. They're a great defense. Great offense, great weapons for Carson Wentz. Doug Peterson seems like a good play caller. So a lot of things going right for Philly, who is one of the few teams that does not have a Super Bowl. So it would be nice to see the Eagles get it done this year. Stoyo, you have anything to add on the Bears?
Yes. I wanted to point out that the Eagles were spreading the ball. A bunch of wide receivers had catches, and I believe there were 3 touchdown passes by Wentz, and they all went to different receivers.
Yep.
And their receiver coach ended up being our receiver coach from 2 years ago.
Nice.
Also, we're supposed to rebuild from the shit show that Mark Trestman was.
Yep.
And his record was 13-19 for a 40% win rate. John Fox is now 12 for 31 for a 27% win rate.
Yeah.
This is ridiculous. And how about this? Apparently, Sunday morning at 1 a.m., 3 Chicago Bears were spotted at a local strip club. What do you think about that?
I mean, they don't give a shit. It's the season's over, and they're just they're probably feeling like, hey, coaching staff doesn't care, so why should we? I mean, this team's a mess. What can you do? You gotta get rid of John Fox. You gotta start over. Look, if I'm running the Bears, I don't care what it costs. Make him the highest paid. Get Jim Harbaugh out of Michigan and get a quarterback coach over here. Get a guy who knows the Bears' history, knows what we stand for. Get a guy who can get the most out of Trubisky. Let's get Jim Harbaugh in here. I don't care what we have to do it. And get John Fox out of Hallis Hall. All right.
Amen.
So let's go to the Seahawks and Niners. Seahawks beat the Niners 24-13. The Niners dropped to 1-10. 3 Russell Wilson touchdowns in this game. And Jimmy Garoppolo makes his Niners debut late in the 4th. He goes 2 for 2 for 18 yards and a touchdown. Seattle has beaten San Francisco 9 straight times going back to 2014. It's a good win for Seattle trying to make the playoffs. Gavin, do you think the Seahawks, despite losing Richard Sherman and Cam Chancellor, they're right there in the playoff hunt? You think they can make a run?
I think they definitely can. Like we talked about earlier, there's a lot of big divisional matchups for the Panthers, Falcons, and Saints, who are right now hogging the wild card spots. They're all 4, 5, and 6 in the NFC. So as they beat up on each other, the Seahawks have a good chance of being able to rise to the top and get back into the wild card. And I don't know what their schedule is, but they might play the Rams again. And if that's the case, that could be, they do play them in 3 weeks. So that would be pretty crucial then to possibly even getting to the top of their division.
Yeah. Yeah, that'll be a big game. I can't wait for that one. Stoyo, what do you think of Garoppolo's debut? Could you tell much from that?
No, but we'll find out next week when he plays the Bears.
Oh, nice. Do you think he's starting for that? I don't know
he's been announced as the starter.
Nice.
So,
yeah, he'll probably go in there and get the Niners' second win of the year.
Probably. I let the record show that I wanted Jimmy Garoppolo. We should have traded for him.
No.
But pace went a different way.
No.
I think that's the only legitimate backup that Tom Brady has had in the last, I don't know how many years.
Yeah.
And
we'll see. Yeah, he's got a chance to prove it. He's got a hell of an offensive coordinator there, or head coach, but guy calling the plays.